Now, so we want to move on. The big one was that SCOTUS delivered a major, major win for Trump. Now, there's been actually a couple of wins. We talked a little bit about one of them this morning, in that the injunction on the Trump tariffs has already been stayed. The Trump tariffs are going to stay in place for now while they adjudicate this whole thing, which is absolutely fantastic because it keeps nations coming to the table. It keeps investment coming in, just like Volkswagen. But I wanted to get into the other big win, which is an actual win, where SCOTUS has basically said, no. The Trump can absolutely revoke the visas. They can absolutely revoke TPS, temporary protected status, on 500,000 criminal and other illegals, and they can absolutely be deported. So before we do that, let me just say thanks everybody for rolling up. All right, let's dive right in. We'll start with the actual SCOTUS decision itself. Before we do, please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know as we try to get our channel back. Thanks so much. Here we go.
From the U.S. Supreme Court, the president has notched a win a moment ago. The U.S. Supreme Court has allowed the Trump administration to revoke the temporary legal status for hundreds of thousands of immigrants. Now, they come from 4 countries: Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, and Nicaragua. They came into the country through an app that was established during the Biden presidency years. And for the moment, it appears that the Trump team, they've made it their objective to deport those who came in illegally. This would be a win for the administration, handed down by the U.S. Supreme Court just a few minutes ago. So that's the latest. Watching that from
fantastic. So 500,000 TPS immigrants that were flown in by the Biden administration direct from the mental institutions and prisons of Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, amongst others. So this program, where they literally seeded the United States with undesirable criminal elements, is now done. It's over. All of their temporary protected status is revoked, and they can be deported immediately. Fantastic. Absolutely huge win for Trump. On that eve, Stephen Miller appeared on this absolute life loser CNN show. And you've got to see, I've got several clips from this. You are going to love it because it is Stephen Miller in rare form. We're going to dive in where he starts talking about the assumptions, really just her whole language and her whole demeanor. And then we're going to get into the meat of it. Here we go. You're going to love this. This is going to really make your Friday.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem posted a stunning allegation saying that an undocumented migrant sent a letter threatening to kill the president, promising to self-deport after the assassination. CNN reporting shows that investigators believe the migrant was set up. It was a victim of a setup. What is the administration going to do now? And this is an undocumented immigrant. I do want to note that. But this was someone who came forward, was a victim of a crime, and now law enforcement believes he was set up. Go ahead.
Well, I want to clarify what you mean, so we're talking about the same thing. Are you saying this immigrant was here illegally?
Yes, but I am, and that's why I said that. I clarified that.
You said undocumented, and I wasn't clear what that means. I'm assuming they have a fake ID. I'm assuming they have a fake social security number.
That's neither here nor there. That's getting away from the question,
country.
Stephen. I want this to be, and call me naive, a good faith discussion about what's happening right now.
When we use language that's designed to obscure the truth, that's not good faith.
An illegal
alien is an illegal alien. They're not an undocumented migrant.
Okay, that's fine. That's another discussion for another date.
I don't know the details of the assassination threat. All I can say, based on what you're telling me, is there's an illegal alien in our country who's making menacing threats. Regardless of the facts or circumstances, we don't want him here. We're going to get to the bottom of it, and I would gladly come back on when I have more information to share with you.
They were set up, just to be clear. But quickly, where is the White House on habeas corpus?
The illegal alien was treated unfairly. Yes, I'm sure the illegal alien was treated very unfairly.
Where is the White House?
I love it. Let's get our terms right. He's not undocumented. He's not an undocumented migrant. First of all, he's probably got a fake ID, a fake social security, fake driver's license. He's probably got a passport. He's documented. He's got a passport from his original country. I love it. Absolutely love it. He is an illegal alien. And it doesn't really matter if he was set up or not. He is here illegally. Goodbye. All right. So that's how it started. Stephen A. Miller just owning this woman, absolutely, completely dismantling this whole thing. So let's keep going. I'm going to jump first because I want to set the groundwork for the next debate or discussion that took place on her show. But I want to set the groundwork first so that you understand where Stephen Miller is coming from. So check this out first. This is at the press goggle outside of the White House.
Congress passed a body of law
known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article III courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article III courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. You're familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? By statute, courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted, saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. The courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So all of that.
Yes, they are overstepping their bounds. They are at war with both the executive and the legislative. Now, let's get into the next discussion that took place. This is Pamela Brown, by the way. That's who the Ultra Life Loser host is here, who's just getting destroyed by Stephen Miller. So let's jump into the next discussion now that you have that foundation.
The district court judge has no authority in this space whatsoever, not even a little bit, not even a small amount, let alone.
That's not true. And how do you know? You're not even a journalist. You're a talking propaganda headpiece. That's it. And yet, instead of asking questions and doing journalisming, you're absolutely just stating your opinion, which is 100% wrong, as we now know from the Immigration Naturalization Act that Congress passed.
And
it is true. So
that is just not true.
Answer me this. Why did Congress create Article II immigration courts? Because they didn't want Article III courts, and in fact prohibited Article III courts from adjudicating individual cases. Okay. Is it really your belief? As if it is, that's breathtaking to me.
I love it. Is it really your belief that Article III courts can weigh in on this? Because if it is, that's breathtaking. Look at her face. She knows she's getting 100% destroyed. She's probably thinking, I want to rip apart a couple of producers at CNN because they hung me out to dry because I'm an intellectual lightweight and Stephen Miller is embarrassing me.
That when we're deporting an illegal alien, we have to get permission from an Article III district court judge?
Okay.
Like a trial judge? Is that your view?
It's how the law works and the Constitution
works.
No,
the law says explicitly that individual immigration cases fall underneath the Attorney General of the United States under Article II. And the Article III courts have been stripped of jurisdiction wholly in this area.
There is a law, and it's a temporary protected status that says it's not subjected to judicial review, but that does not apply to all immigration issues. It's one law from Congress.
I'm glad that you're conceding that TPS rulings are unlawful. But the entire structure of the
Supreme Court weighed in on that. I am saying yes. The Supreme Court said the Trump administration was right on that issue.
Because that's what the law says, honey. The law says that the Article III courts have been stripped of jurisdiction in immigration cases. That's why we have immigration courts. The inferior, black-robed, behind-the-scenes district court judges are not allowed to weigh in on these cases. They have no jurisdiction. So frankly, if it was me and in the Trump administration, I would simply cite that and completely ignore them. But this is just 100% Stephen Miller owning an intellectual lightweight. All right, let's move on to the next one because it's not that it gets better. It just stays the same, but it's a different topic and he destroys her again. Here we go.
Do you think a judge should just rubber stamp what your White House does? If not, what checks and balances do you think should be in place for this White House?
It is not the job of a district court judge to perform an individual green light or red light on every single policy that the president takes as the head of the executive branch. Just think about the premise baked into your question, respectfully, Pam. You're saying that when the American people elect a president of the United States of America,
I'm not saying
it's the implication, who is the sole head of the executive branch. Well, let me finish. I will answer the question happily. But look, when you have these kinds of lazy assumptions built into questions, it makes it hard to have a constructive dialogue.
What is a lazy assumption? I said you all had to win.
You said no. You said is it my expectation?
I'm speaking because now you're putting.
You said is it my expectation? It's not just you. It's the whole media. In other words, when you
hear a
sentence like
it is a completely fair question. You say judges rule against the White House.
And I will gladly answer it. When you say, do we think district court judges should rubber stamp each action? there is a premise that is built into that is absurd. The president is the sole head of the executive branch. He's the only officer in the entire government that's elected by the entire American people. Democracy cannot function. In fact, democracy does not exist at all if each action the president takes, foreign policy, diplomatic, military, national security, has to be individually approved by 700 district court judges. That's democracy. So if there's 15 communist crazy judges on the court, that each of them as a team working together can block and freeze each and every executive action?
Absolutely true. 100%. And specifically in immigration, they have no authority. The Immigration Naturalization Act stripped them. It delegitimized them of their authority. It stripped them of their judicial authority in these cases. I love Stephen Miller. I love it because it's amazing these intellectual lightweights actually let him on their show. Then he destroys them. And then they proceed to basically just throw their opinion out there. Oh, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. No, he's not wrong. He's citing the law and you're citing nothing. Pamela Brown.